Mr. President, thank you for the recognition. I rise to begin a discussion that will take place during today about Senate Joint Resolution 10, which is a resolution that my colleague Senator Heinrich and I have filed to challenge President Trump's Day One declaration of a U.S. energy emergency. And you'll hear from a number of our colleagues today expressing the basic point that the declaration is a sham. There is, in fact, no emergency, but it has been declared so as to gut various environmental laws passed by Congress, still part of U.S. statutory law, in order to advantage certain kinds of energy, i.e. oil, gas, and coal, and punish other forms of energy, wind, solar, etc. I'm very, very happy to have the support of my colleague, Senator Heinrich, who is the energy expert on the Democratic side in this body, and very, very happy to have so many colleagues who will be speaking on this matter today on the Senate floor. President Trump took a number of actions on his first day in office, and many of them got a lot of attention. One that didn't get so much attention was his decision on day one to declare that the United States was in an energy emergency, and therefore we needed to bypass environmental laws. I want to dig into the sham nature of the emergency declaration and then explore why President Trump actually has done it, and finally conclude with a request to my colleagues that the Article I branch should not just roll over and play dead when a president declares an emergency that does not actually exist. So let's first talk about the claim that President Trump has raised that the United States is in an energy emergency. This is a chart that shows U.S. energy production from 1950 until essentially today. The chart goes through about 2023 and does not include the 2024 numbers. But I am proud to stand here and tell you, especially as one who has supported many of the policies that has led to this growth in American energy, that America is producing more energy today than at any point in the history of this nation. America is the leader in the world in energy production. And for the last few years, we've been an energy surplus nation, producing more than we consume. You will see that the chart includes different kinds of energy, oil, gas, coal, renewable, but the direction of the chart shows steady increase in production. Let's go into the kinds of energy we're talking about here. In 2024, America produced more natural gas than at any time in the history of this country. In 2024, America produced more petroleum than at any time in the history of this country. And in 2024, America deployed more renewable energy than at any time in the history of this country. In fact, in 2024, more than 90% of the energy added to the nation's energy grid was from renewable sources, wind, solar, and battery storage. The United States recently, in the past few years, there may be a technical term for this, Mr. President, but I call it an energy surplus nation. We produce more than we consume. That moment happened in 2019, where our production started to outpace consumption. And in every year since 2019, that surplus has grown. And the surplus in 2024 was at record levels. And it's a good thing to produce significantly more than we consume. Why is it a good thing? Because we're able to sell energy to others, reducing our trade deficit. I participated with senators in lifting the ban on export of crude petroleum a few years ago. And that plus exports of liquid natural gas have helped us with our trade deficit. But more directly related to this moment in time, the export of American energy has also helped us help other nations who are reliant on energy from petrodictators. The nations in Europe that had to rely on Vladimir Putin, nations in other parts of the world that have had to rely on Iran or Venezuela, now increasingly are able to access U.S. energy. I was in Finland over the weekend visiting Virginia Guard troops exercising with the Finnish army. Finland is importing liquid natural gas from the United States and using it for their own energy needs and also for the energy needs of other European nations. So where's the emergency? More oil than ever, more natural gas than ever, more renewables than ever, and a record surplus of production over consumption. Where is the energy? The energy is not in the energy sector. The energy is Donald Trump self-creating an emergency. Because Donald Trump, in other actions taken in the first week of his administration, has gone full tilt to challenge energy projects that are creating jobs and lowering prices all across this country. Donald Trump and his administration are attacking wind projects. They're attacking solar projects. They're attacking clean energy projects that aren't oil, coal, natural gas, and nuclear. And by doing so, they're reducing supply and likely raising prices on American consumers. There are a number of projects in Virginia, as an example, that have benefited from tax breaks that were included either in the Inflation Reduction Act for clean energy projects or the bipartisan infrastructure law for rollout of electric vehicle charging, for example. President Trump's administration has attacked those projects, has put them on hold, and the Virginians who were intending to invest billions of dollars hiring people to build these projects are now uncertain about what they can do. Why would a president declare an energy emergency and then attack homegrown clean energy projects in my state and elsewhere? And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. Why would he do that? Well, we don't have to speculate about the answer. We know the answer. In the summer of 2024, President Trump held a meeting at Mar-a-Lago with the CEOs of major oil and gas companies. And they reported upon the substance of that meeting. And here is a headline from The Guardian. Other publications carried the same news. Trump promised to scrap climate laws if U.S. oil bosses donated $1 billion to his campaign. One of the oil executives at the meeting quoted Donald Trump saying, "You'll get it on the first day. Oil and gas will get preferential treatment on the first day with end runs around environmental laws passed by Congress that are still part of the statutes we take an oath to implement in our jobs." And in fact, Mr. President, the oil and gas guys did get it on the first day. What did the Trump fake energy emergency deliver to those he had promised to support? Here is what was delivered in the emergency order. The president said there's an emergency, and so we need to bypass laws passed by Congress. We need to bypass the Clean Air Act. We need to bypass the Clean Water Act. We need to bypass the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, the National Historic Preservation Act, the National Environmental Policy Act. Because of this fake emergency that he has created out of thin air, we need to take all these laws that Congress has passed, many of which have been in statute, like the Clean Water Act, for more than 50 years, and we need to give energy producers and transmitters the ability to bypass these laws in order to produce and transmit energy. It's interesting, though, when you read the executive order, it talks about energy production, but you have to go to the last section of the order to read what energy means. And President Trump is calling for a national emergency and bypassing all of these laws if you want to produce using oil or gas or coal or nuclear or hydro, but not for wind, not for solar, not for clean battery storage. If your homegrown American low-cost energy is wind, solar, and battery storage, you don't get to bypass environmental laws. You have to comply with the letter of the law as Congress intends. We're only giving a break to the guys who supported Donald Trump, the fossil fuel industry. Donald Trump is so willing to give away the farm to big oil and gas that he even, in the first provision in the emergency order, said we also need to bypass property rights. He encouraged federal agencies to make aggressive use of eminent domain to produce fossil fuel energy. Those watching understand what this means. Eminent domain is the government taking the land from private property owners, and there's a set of rules in the federal code about when you can use eminent domain for energy projects. But Donald Trump has said, you know what? If you want to do oil, coal, and gas, you don't have to follow the rules. You can even take people's private property by bypassing the rules for oil, gas, and coal, but of course not for wind and solar. Not for wind, solar, and battery, the clean energy that has been 95% of the power added to the grid just last year. So we know what the game is. You'll get it on the first day, big oil, and they did, and Donald Trump is now giving them an easy pass lane to speed by clean energy projects that are lower cost and cleaner because he told them he would do it if they supported his campaign. This is no emergency. It was declared for a corrupt purpose, and it is an unacceptable effort to undermine laws passed by the Article I branch. And so I am on the floor with my colleague, Senator Heinrich, and I'm going to yield to him in a second, to just ask Congress, be Congress. Be the Article I branch. If a president can just stand up and make up an emergency and then gut laws that Congress passed, what's to stop President Trump from making up another emergency and gutting other laws? What's to stop any president, Republican or Democrat, from fabricating a complete emergency and using it to gut laws that Congress has passed? If President Trump doesn't like the Clean Water Act, I happen to like it. I don't think it's perfect, but the Clean Water Act has helped us restore the James River in the city of Richmond, where I live, which won an International River Prize a couple of years ago as the most improved river in the United States, a river that was a sewer that was closed off to fishing for 50 years, now has fishing, swimming, rafting, kayaking, bald eagles that had been extinct along the river because of chemicals now breeding in one of the most dense populations of bald eagles in the United States. I like the Clean Water Act. I think it served a valuable purpose for 50 plus years, but maybe President Trump, who was elected, has decided that the Clean Water Act or the Clean Air Act or property rights protections have outlived their usefulness. And if he's decided that these laws have outlived their usefulness, well, he's got two Republican houses. He could introduce a bill to repeal the Clean Air Act or repeal the Clean Water Act. That would be the right way to do this, not invent a bogus fake emergency and unilaterally gut these laws. But the president's got a problem. If he introduced a bill to repeal the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, not even Republicans, some Republicans would, but not even Republicans would support it. In two Republican houses, he would have zero luck in repealing these laws that have protected the public health and the environment. So his attitude is, wow, I could benefit my big oil cronies by repealing these laws, but that's a non-starter in the Article I branch. So why don't I just kick the Article I branch to the side, create a fake emergency, and run them, and that's how I benefit my cronies. Congress should stand up against this and vote for Senate Joint Resolution 10 because it's the right policy, and we shouldn't gut these provisions except by doing it in the course of ordinary legislative business, should that be the will of the appropriate majority of both bodies. That would be the way to do this. So I'm asking my colleagues to stand up and support Senate Joint Resolution 11. This would be horrible policy, but more than a horrible policy on these laws, it would also set a horrible precedent. A precedent that a president of either party can invent a sham emergency and then grab away from Congress powers that Congress has under Article 1. Let's not be sheep in this place. Let's not have this be the silence of the lambs, just doing whatever Donald Trump says he wants to do with the Article 1 branch, not saying a mumbling word, not willing to issue a peep, not showing a backbone, not showing a voice. We've got a backbone, we've got a voice, but more importantly, we took an oath to a Constitution that gives Congress certain powers. We should not let the president trample on those powers. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.